All right. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
We're the brothers of Great Millstone, Charlotte, coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Shai. And before we get started with this lesson, we'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you we say shalom.
Shalom.
So in this lesson, pretty much is entitled "How Has the Golden City Ceased?" And so we're gonna start off with that Isaiah 14, but we got a couple articles going into this topic of this place. It's inevitable fall. But before we get into that, let me get that Isaiah 14 real quick.
I got you. This is Isaiah 14:1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
So we understand that mercy is going to be shown unto Jacob, who are you, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? But ultimately, the elect of the nation of Israel are going to be, called into this thing, and be delivered, right? But as it says, set them in their own land, right? And the strangers shall be joined unto them, and they shall cleave to their house, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. But ultimately, the strangers also being, the Israelite foreigners, Jake that's scattered amongst these other nations as well can be, brought back to their respective tribes. But this is going to take place. This fulfillment of this is ultimately going to take place, after, what the scriptures call Babylon the Great gets taken down, right? As we're going to continue reading on.
If I can add to that, because one of the reasons why Babylon the Great here, which we know to be America, is going to be destroyed because the lies of Esau Edom have been exposed, and those people over there in the Holy Land claiming to be the Israelites, all right, are found to be liars, man. So like you read, or like I read, it says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel, and will set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them." Okay, the Lord has not fulfilled his prophecy yet. And this is the reason why, we see war going on over there in the land of Israel. All right, really in the Middle East, so-called Middle East, dealing with the Fertile Crescent, because these Edomites have, tried to usurp authority and put themselves in the stead of Jacob when we know that they indeed are Esau. So Yahweh Shema Shai is having these events take place, all right, to show you that the true children of Israel, all right, are about to be freed from the bondage that we have been enduring under the Edomites. So the Balfour Declaration, all the different aliyahs that these Edomites did to get that land showed you that this prophecy has not taken place yet. Continuing on, it says, verse 2, "And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall and they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors."
Right. So ultimately, it's going to be a role reversal. What was done unto us is going to be done unto them. Right. The scriptures talk about, how the Lord is going to use us, his people, Israel, to bring a judgment upon Esau. And that's going to be by this way, by having us, putting us in the seat of authority, in the seat of power, and having us enslave them, round them up, and put them in shackles, just the same way as they did to us, right? As we always bring out, Revelation 13 and verse 10. Is it 13 and 10?
Yep.
Yeah, 13 and 10.
He that leadeth in the captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword shall be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints.
Con. So that's ultimately, what we're hoping for, is for payback, for revenge, but that's going to come after, like I mentioned, the fall of this place. So this place has to be taken down, you know, in order for us to have that privilege, to have that, that blessing, you should say, or we can
Right.
say.
And I got a precept for you too. This is Sirach
Mhm.
chapter 10, verse 4. It says, the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. Because Babylon the Great, all right, this is the epicenter of wickedness in the world. All the nations in the world pretty much look to Babylon as that golden city, the epitome of beauty. So they, not as much as before, but at one point America was like that beacon of all nations wanted to come over here and pretty much make it. So the Lord is letting us know that this place has to be destroyed in order for the earth to be able to prosper, because all the wickedness that Babylon has portrayed out into the world, democracy, women's liberation, Moism, all right, straight decadence and moral decay. All right, this
Mhm.
shows you that this place is profitable for the earth. Just as Esau himself is not profitable for the earth. So Isaiah 14 ultimately is the fulfillment of this verse. Okay, because the Lord has to put the Israelites in the power seat, because we're the only ones capable of running the earth and bringing it back to its true essence.
Mhm. That's right. And just to add to your point, just to add to the point of America, just being that that stain, it really is. It has really plagued the earth like a cancer.
Mhm.
To where everything Esau touches, everything America gets involved in or gets its hands on, they always corrupt it or destroy it.
That's
You
right.
know, and even the customs. People that take on the customs of America, they start seeing negative results in this. Whether it's a civil life, whether it's every pretty much every faction that makes up that society starts to get broken down.
Yep.
You know, but can we continue reading into this, Bubba
Yep. I
Shah?
got you. Back in Isaiah 14 and 3, and it shall come to pass in that day, or in the day, that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou hast made to serve, or thou wast made to serve, that thou
Mhm.
shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased.
Right. So that proverb is something that we're taking up right now. We're chanting down Babylon. We're declaring its fall. The scriptures. I believe I can't remember where is it in Isaiah, but it says it talks about the burden of Babylon.
I
Oh, it
believe
was
that's Isaiah
Amos.
6. Yeah, I get you real quick.
Con. But pretty much that burden is essentially what we're declaring. The doom of this place. But that's going to come by different various plagues. Which is as we're going to get into the economic collapses. Civil unrest. Various things, and but ultimately the ultimate doom is going to be by the way of the ICBM missiles. But you got it,
Con,
bro.
it was Isaiah 13.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, con,
Isaiah, it had Amos in the word in the verse. That's probably what you was thinking about. But
con.
Isaiah 13 and 1, it says the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. It
Mm-hmm.
says, lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt a voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles.
Right. So ultimately, really, when you really look at it, the beginning of an empire's fall is when you start seeing the prophets.
Exactly.
When you look at Amos 3 and 7, right? The Most High will do nothing, but He revealed his secret unto His servants, the prophets. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
before the Most High does anything, He reveals it unto His prophets, and then they go out and proclaim it to that nation or whoever of their impending doom.
Right. And then to add to that as well, uh the prophets pretty much are the signaling of the downfall of that kingdom, because Yahweh Shem Shah is letting the world know that this is Yahweh Shem Shah that ruleth in the kingdom of men. So no
Mm-hmm.
kingdom can extend its pretty much is life longer than what the Most High had ordained for it. And this has been the telltale sign throughout all the captivities that the Israelites have been in. Just to add to your point, Jeremiah
Con.
28:8, the
Hmm.
prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of evil and of war and pestilence.
Right. So of evil, of war, and of pestilence, right? And that's exactly what we're proclaiming. We're proclaiming war, evil, and pestilences, but it says, prophesied, which means to say before. So there was a time where the prophets, which even to this day, prophets are mocked. The true
Mm-hmm.
prophets of the Lord are constantly being mocked by naysayers. But back then, even before the signs were, evidently or obvious, you know, you have men out there proclaiming the downfall of this place. You see, but that was all to the Spirit of the Lord. So again, just to reiterate the point, really the downfall of a kingdom is whenever the Most High sends out His prophets, right? That's the
Right.
main that's the main sign, the main telltale sign that this place is going down, right?
And if I could add, because those signs were already rooted in its inception, because like just using Babylon America as an example, America was founded on bloodshed, you know, and that off the rip, condemns this place because like it says in Numbers 30 was 33 and 35 I believe,
Hmm.
where it said that a nation established with blood, only way it could be cleansed if the blood of that nation of that land be shed or something like that,
Hmm.
roughly paraphrasing. And so from America's inception, this place was already designed to be destroyed. And so all the other underlying things that we're gonna get into in this lesson, all right, they were started from the rip,
Hmm.
because America was found. Not only was it founded on bloodshed, it was founded on robbery, lies, you know, and all these things correlate into what we see taking place today. Because how did Babylon become a flourishing nation? All right, off of slavery, all right, off the
Hmm.
slavery of the Israelites, all right, the unjust gains, the riches kept back by deceit, all
Hmm.
these things must be accounted for, and this is what Yahweh Shemi Shai is beginning to do now is, bringing the chickens home to roost, man.
Right.
You have to pay for all these different things that you've done, all these injustices that has happened to the Lord's people. Hey, the time to pay up is now. So this is why we see, as the scriptures say, it's in Second Ezra somewhere I couldn't remember, where it said the Lord was going to bring the plagues of Egypt, to pretty much again. So the same way that Egypt was brought down, all right, is the same thing how America's getting brought down. Because when you go into the different plagues that that Egypt, suffered, they were all attacking the different gods that Egypt was worshiping. And so here
Hmm.
it is in America, which is Babylon the Great. All right, all the different idols that they have, took on to themselves from the different captivities. All right, the Lord's going to attack them same idols again. As
Hmm.
Isaiah the 19th chapter, man. The
Hmm.
idols of Egypt are about to be moved all over again, man.
That's right. Hey, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier before the video. Ecclesiastes 1 and verse 9.
Con.
Let me read it real quick. It says, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun."
Mm-hmm.
So, like the brother mentioned, everything we're seeing now is really just a reiteration, just done in a different way. You
That's
know,
right.
the scriptures call this place, spiritual Sodom, spiritual Egypt. So that we're seeing the same things, the same gods, the same idols, the same forms of worship. You know, it's just repackaged.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way this place is going to go out, or the same way Egypt and Sodom went out, is the same way America is going to go out. So it's just a whole encapsulation. That's the reason why this place is called the mother of harlots.
That's right.
It encapsulates all these different nations and idols and forms of worship and cultures all together in one.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything that's rebellious against the Lord. That's what America is built off of.
Yeah, and that was done intentionally
Hmm.
because the elites that founded America, they knew what they were doing when they pretty much built this country up, man. You know, so
Hmm.
everything that is happening now, all right, is the Lord's response to these devils doing this, because in their minds they thought that, you know, the knowledge that they was getting from, you know, Satan and these left hand demons, they thought they had one over the Lord, not realizing that that information was still coming from Yahweh by Shemal Shai. It was just, you know, the Lord's left hand, because according to Isaiah 45:7, the Lord controls both good and evil. So
Mm-hmm.
you devils are stupid in thinking that you are able to get one over the Lord, when the Lord is the one that gave y'all the information to do what y'all doing. He's literally willing y'all to y'all destruction. Like it says in Proverbs 29:1, the king's
Mm-hmm.
heart is in the hand of the Lord, and he turneth it whatsoever he will. So he's putting the idea in y'all head to do what y'all doing, which is leading to your destruction. So, like we always say, these devils are in a trick bag, man.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, when we go back, you know, to Isaiah 14, you know, it says, Isaiah 14:4, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's essentially what was about to happen. You know, well, we're seeing that right now, actually. You
Yeah.
know, America is really just crumbling. You know, it's imploding. You know, we're seeing, you know, the power, you know, that it once had with well, what Esau had with his enchantments. It ain't working no more.
Nope.
You know, the political divide, even though it is, you know, it is going to fulfill the Lord's will to bring that divide, but uh, the way that Esau is going about it is not working the way he actually intends it to. People are really starting to see through it, to the point where people are just coming out with videos, you know, talking about how, you know, these so-called sea theorists were right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what it is that, you know, the witchcraft that these devils were doing behind the scene, which gave them the power to do everything that we're seeing now, all right, is being exposed, which was a major source of Esau's power, was that secrecy. So now that
Mm-hmm.
everybody is becoming aware of what is being done behind the scenes, that power is waning, because that's showing you that the Lord, all right, is beginning to take that power from you. That's why no matter what these devils are doing, all right, it's being done in vain, because they don't understand that the fall of Babylon the Great, all right, is ordained through prophecy. All right. So no matter how much witchcraft that you see happening, all right, that's not going to prevent Esau's destruction. That's why we have the accounts of things like Project Looking Glass, to where these devils know that no matter what they do, that they're not going to be able to overthrow prophecy. All right. I got a quick one for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Isaiah 47 and verse 12. It says, stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so, be thou, if so, be thou that, if so, be thou shalt be able to profit. If so, be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from all these things which shall come upon you. All right. And that's, you know, Yahweh Shem Shah being sarcastic with these devils, because no
Mm-hmm.
matter how much, you know, spells and things that's being casted, because one thing you got to realize is that Babylon is just one big ass enchantment. All right. Everything that we see, from the symbols, all right, to the things that's being showed to us in these in the media, all right, to even the lifestyle that's being given to us, they're all, you know, forms of witchcraft. All right. Esau, these elites have, you know, these high level witches, you know, performing, you know, these enchantments day and night, just like Pharaoh. You know, Pharaoh
Mm-hmm.
had, you know, Janus and Jambres. Well, Esau has these witches and warlocks pretty much, you know, doing the same thing that they was doing in Egypt, man. You know, but
Mm-hmm.
all that's, you know, it's pretty much being done in vain, because America's destruction is already written. Now, in the spirit, this place has already fallen, but we have to
Mm-hmm.
watch these things play out, which is why we're seeing what we're seeing take place now, because the spirit, all right, is having these things, you know, happen. Because you made mention of earlier, all right, how pretty much the prophets were sent out to pretty much, you know, prophesy the downfall of that kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the earth moves off the vibration of the prophets. So the moment America's fate was sealed, when the Lord put the breath back into the prophets, and we got up, well, we came upon our feet and began to preach the downfall of this place, just like Jericho. How did Jericho fall? All right, by the we marched around it 7 times and we shouted it down. Well, through the Spirit, that's what we're doing to Babylon today. That's Second Corinthians, the 10th chapter. All right, because the weapons of our warfare aren't carnal. All right, but by the pulling down the strongholds up, by us exposing this devil, going into prophecy, showing you that these men are the sons of the wicked, are all proof that America is fallen, because that secrecy no longer has power over the people like it once did.
Right. Everything's being revealed, and the fact that this man is trying to avoid, really, like I said, like we always mention, he's just trying to avoid the inevitable. This is the reason why in Psalms, the 2nd chapter, it says, why did the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing?
Yep.
It's a vain thing to think you can get from up under the control of the Lord.
Yep.
But I got this quote. I found this interesting. It says, a person often meets his destiny on the road he took to avoid it.
That's a good one.
So, and this all goes to what you mentioned. Esau's in a trick bag. Here it is. He thinks he's doing his best to avoid it, not knowing that it is written that the steps that you're taking, the road that you're going, is going to ultimately lead to what you're trying to avoid in the first place. The whole thing we read in Isaiah, the beginning of Isaiah, that's what he's trying to avoid. Or Isaiah 14, I should say. Right? Him being in the position of a slave, him being under the thumb of the Israelites, right? As they say, a black man's heaven is a white man's hell, you know? Yep. And then that's what he's most fearful of. They remember the time of King David and the ass whoopings that they received, how David had them in an open air prison, right, with garrisons all around them, constantly being monitored. Huh?
That's a complete subjection.
That's right.
And
it's going to be the same way this time. Only with like it says, a rod of iron, which you will call today pretty much ruling with the iron fist.
Yeah. Because if I could add to you can go into like one account where I think he had the Edomites, split up into 2 lines. And I think he killed one line and then left the other one. But it's just like you didn't know like if he was gonna kill you or not. So they was in fear. But just showing you that Esau knows. He knows the history. So like you said, when they think about life under King David, that puts fear in them, because they know when we get back in the power seat, we're gonna do that all over again.
That's right.
We're gonna fulfill what Saul failed to do. Ultimately, man. Once that 1,000 years is up, all right, your number's called, man. You're gonna go in that pit, and we're gonna get rid of you, like Obadiah 1:18 says. But the point of the matter is this: no matter what you devils do, you cannot get around the Lord's will. All right, and I got this for you. You can break it down. This is Romans 9:19. That will say then unto me, why doeth he yet find fault? For who have resisted his will?
Right. So Esau can't say, oh, the Most High is unrighteous or the Most High is unjust. The Most High can do whatever he wants. Right. And who has resisted his will? That means if the Most High calls upon you to be the wicked, you're going to be the wicked. And that's that's the way the Most High has laid it out. For this man to do what he's doing, and he's doing a perfect job at it. The scriptures in the I can't remember exactly where it's at. I believe it's in 2nd Ezra, but it says the Most High created 2 and 2, one against another. The righteous against the wicked against the righteous, right? And that's the I guess you could say the protagonist and the antagonist, storyline. Jacob versus Esau.
Yeah. Cain versus Abel, all
Right.
that. Yeah, that's just the Lord's script. You can't
Mm-hmm.
get mad at that.
Mm.
I got you right here. So we got that for edification. In the book of Sirach,
Oh,
chapter 33, I started verse 13. It says, matter of fact, she can go up. I started at 11. And much knowledge the Lord have divided them and made their ways diverse. Some of them have he blessed and exalted, and some of them he sanctified and set near himself. But some of them have he cursed and brought low and turned out of their places. As in
mm-hmm.
the, you want to speak on
Also,
it?
like you go ahead.
Verse 13. As the clay is in the potter's hand to fashion it at his pleasure, so man is in the hand of him that made him, to render to them as liketh him best. Good is said
Right.
against. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so like I was just gonna say, yeah. So the Most High is the one that decides, pretty much he's the one that makes up all the decisions. If um like the Most High had Esau play the role of the devil, well, that's the role that he was picked for. Like I said, you can't get mad at that. The Most High fashioned him to be that guy, to be that man. Just like the Most High fashioned us. The scriptures talk about, a vessel unto honor and a vessel unto dishonor. You
Right.
know, so you have two different roles. So like you mentioned, you can't get mad at that. You know what I'm saying? This man has a role to fulfill, and his role is to be the devil. So even Esau can't get mad at that. You
Nah,
know.
it just everybody playing their role, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what Proverbs 3:33. Not 3:33. It's in Proverbs though about how the Lord created the wicked for the day of evil.
Right.
So he literally created you to do what you're doing. So like you said, you can't get mad at the Lord or call it unfair, because the Lord. Let's look at it like this, man. The Lord gave every heathen their time to rule.
Mm-hmm.
And so look, Esau, you were given the time of the Greeks, you were given the time of the Romans,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're here in America. So you can't say that the Lord is unfair, because look, he gave you three kingdoms, which really is
Mm-hmm.
just two. America is just Rome reincarnated, but the fact is this: he gave you time to rule, just like he gave every other nation. So because your time is at an end, does that make the Most High unfair? No, because he was only given an appointed time to rule, and he gave
Mm-hmm.
you bounds that you cannot pass. Every heathen had the experience what Esau is feeling now, which is the fall of his empire. So you can't get mad at that. It's just part of the story. Because
Right.
the thing about it is this: no heathen, all right, was promised eternal rulership. All right, only the Israelites, man. All right. So the only reason that the heathen were even given a kingdom was for the fact of teaching Israel a lesson. So that lesson is pretty much coming to an end. So now we are witnessing the fruits of that kingdom and their wickedness, man. Because like it says in the Galatians 6 and 7, all right, you reap what you sow. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
starts with how the Most High is not mocked. And what is America? Pretty much a big middle finger to the Lord. All right, as we see what these devils are doing over there in Davos, pretty much trying to make AI into a replacement for the Most High. Well, you're gonna have to pay for that, you know. And so this is all leading back to what we were bringing out in Isaiah 14:4 about how the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased, because
Mm-hmm.
America was brought to a place to where they never thought they was gonna fall, and we're experiencing that downfall incrementally.
Mm-hmm. Scriptures
So
talk about how let me get it actually. Talks
I
about
had a
bounds.
couple two more verses on that Sirach real quick if I can finish
Oh
that.
yeah, con, go ahead.
Kind of Sirach 33:14. This is the point you had said. Good is set against evil, and life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's pretty much the point. The Most High created the good; He created the evil. The Most High is in control of everything. You know, so like I said, the direction that Esau's going in, destroying pretty much his own kingdom. is the path that the Most High has him going.
Yep.
Of course, we understand, his agenda, what Esau is trying to do. He's trying to, self implode his kingdom in order to, come out of the ashes like a phoenix and reestablish, his kingdom. But it ain't gonna work.
Nope. No, it's all futile.
Mm-hmm. But this all leads, like I said, to the point that we were making here in Isaiah 14, how this man's inevitable fall is coming, and we're seeing the signs of it now. Well, we've been seeing the signs, but ever since 2020, leading up to now, we've been seeing a dramatic uptake on these signs just appearing like almost on a daily basis. The scriptures talk about measure the time diligently within themselves. And you do that by correlating, the news to prophecy. And what we're seeing is a constant, influx of prophecy, just popping off the pages. We can, as we're going to go into, these different signs that we're seeing, going on in the news, whether it's the economy, whether it's war, whether it's internal affairs, within within America, whether it's different, scandals. Salaki, what you say?
Exposure.
Yeah, exposure. This is all prophesied, and told as being signs of this man's fall,
Mm-hmm.
But I want to get this. This is from the AI overview. I just typed in signs of a collapsing empire. And it says signs of a falling empire include deep economic decay, debt inflation, right? So we see a lot of that with Esau's, $38 trillion debt, which it could be, didn't we say before it was more than that?
Yeah, it's way more than that.
Gone. And it says intense eternal political conflict, right? The whole left-right paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
Things intensifying, especially over the whole ICE incident going on now.
Yep.
And we got a couple articles, just go into these points. But it says widening wealth gaps, right? The rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. The dissolvement of the middle class. It says and military overextension, right? Which we see the whole thing with
Greenland.
what was it? The whole new thing with Iran,
Mm-hmm.
Iran conflict. You have the whole thing over Taiwan, which nothing's come with that yet. But we're seeing the rumors, the wars, the rumors of wars. All this buildup. It also says it is marked by a loss of trust in institutions, right? And like we mentioned before, we started the video. This whole thing with the Epstein list is really gonna destabilize, the whole trust in these political figures and presidents and all these people. Because what we're seeing is that a lot of these people, they're sick in the head, man. A lot of these people, they're all like they're demonic. They serve Satan, and now that exposure is out there, which we've been knowing. The scriptures talk about how we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right, but principalities. How exactly does it go? Against evil in high places, right? That's ultimately what we're up against. But it says severe social polarization, right? Again, that whole left-right paradigm. It says, and the erosion of shared civic values, right? Pretty much people being divided, and also decadence, within society. It says often leading to a bread and circuses culture. And that's exactly what we're in. We're in a bread and circuses culture, where pretty much everybody's weekend revolves around, getting together and watching some sports, and, pretty much in order for them to escape the reality of their society, a failure of a society with rising prices, like we mentioned, violence or crime, uptaking. There's a lot of problems that we're seeing in America that point to the decline of this empire. Let me see. Just first one real quick. Um, let me get. Let's get this. This is from Forbes.com. It says, here's what the coming 51 trillion fiscal crisis could look like. Right. So again, touching on the economy, high debt. But it says the national debt, which the federal government has largely ignored in every practical way, is racing out of control. The national debt as of January 26, 2025 was $38.5 trillion. By 2030 at a 10-year annual growth. So this is what they're projecting, right? That in 10 years, it says of an average growth of $2.01 or 2.01 trillion dollars, the national debt will be 48.9 trillion. It says substitute the growth rate over the last 5 years, 2.5 trillion, and you could mark up the debt by another 2 trillion to $50.9 trillion. So this is what they're projecting, that by 2030, the debt will reach pretty much $51 trillion. So that's a steep rise over the past couple of years. So they're going to have to come up with something, which we understand what's going to happen, right? A reset to where they're going to crash this current dollar, current system, and bring in the new, which is going to be a digital system, a digital currency, right? Where you're going to have to take a device under your skin to be integrated into that system. You going to say something, Mark?
Yeah, because everything that you're saying, you got to understand that this is a controlled demolition. All right, they created the economy to pretty much implode on itself. That's why they took the gold standard away from the dollar. All right, because when you go into history, fiat currency, it always fails because you have to your money has to be backed by a tangible substance. So the fact that you see like now gold and silver rising, the way it is, all right, everybody is realizing that the American dollar is worthless. This is why we see everything pretty much seeming like it's rising, but ultimately is what is really happening is that the power of the dollar is weakening, and so these devils are looking to do away with this current economic system so that they can bring in that digital system, which is all going to lead towards the MOTB. So just adding that to your point.
Con. No, yeah, and this is going to affect the people most and foremost because with the money or prices going up and people living more on a paycheck to paycheck type of basis, which people are already living paycheck to paycheck, but imagine that shit getting worse to where when you read about in Revelation, was it the 6th chapter, the 18th verse, I believe. As a matter of fact, let me just get it. Revelation 6 in verse 18, it says, oh wait, no, it ain't there. Where it talks about the penny.
Oh, the denarian.
Yeah. Oh, 6 and 6. Salakia.
Yeah.
So it says, Revelation 6 and 6 says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So a penny was a Roman denarion, which is a day's wage. So imagine, living off of this, and or a day's wage, one of your days, just one work that you go into work, would just be enough for you to provide, for that day. You're going to be living a day by day, a paycheck by paycheck basis, and it's going to get worse to where people are going to have to start, and it's happening now. I remember a while back, I did a video on how people are really cutting out like extra stuff out of their, expenses. like subscriptions, different things that they deem unnecessary, or sacrificing, their health insurance in order to put, food on the table. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
Different things like that. But this shit is just gonna pick up and get worse and worse, especially with the debt increasing. Which is the reason why they're gonna have to come in with a solution. Which we understand how Esau works. He works through order ab chaos. So, as the scripture says, how's it go? Pretty much we are not deceived or something like that. I can't remember exactly how it
2
goes.
Corinthians 2:11.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Matter
not
of fact, let me
ignorant of
get it.
Satan's devices.
Yeah, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. Let me get this real quick. It said
2:11.
2:11, Salakia. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. You see? So, through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, we've been made privy on Esau's manners, the way he behaves, the way he acts, the way he moves, his ideas. We know everything about him, man. We can read him like a playbook.
Hey, because it is the playbook of the Lord. So what he's doing, like I said, when you understand prophecy, you get everything that's going on, because it's the spirit. If you've been keeping up with Apostle Gabar's lessons lately, all right, he's been touching on these old documentaries that they were watching when they were first coming into the truth. So like, since we're speaking of the economy, a good one to watch is that documentary dealing with the money masters. Because in that documentary, it goes into how these elites created an economy that was doomed, because their ultimate goal is to bring the world into this what they define now as a neo-feudalism, which pretty much neo-feudalism. If I can read the definition for that real quick, give me 1 second. All right, it says neo-feudalism is a theory describing a modern shift towards a society dominated by a small, ultra-wealthy elite, tech oligarchs who control digital platforms and assets reminiscent of medieval lords. This structure features a shrinking middle class, massive wealth inequality, and the rise of a new serfdom, gig workers, renters with minimal upward mobility or asset ownership. So everything that is being done through AI is being done on purpose, because what you've been hearing guys like Elon Musk talk about is that AI is going to eventually take over all jobs, to where people are no longer going to have to work. And so some might hear that and be like, well, that should be a good thing, right? But at that point, if people no longer have to work, then what are they going to do? What is the point of life here if you can't work? In the sense of the American public, right? So this is what's going to pretty much, give credence to Esau to start getting rid of people at an even more rapid pace, man. All right. So all these things that we're seeing, being done, the elites have been telling you they've been doing this for the longest. This is why it's good to watch those documentaries the apostles always talk about, money masters. I forgot the one with Eustace Mullins, the different ones, listening to guys like John Todd and different guys, because these elites have been telling you, these things are going to happen years before we actually see these things playing out. So the stuff that we hear the apostles bringing out, and then how they align it with prophecy, just shows you is that the Most High's words are faithful and true. So we're not taken aback, as we see these things playing out. That's why, like you have on the screen, that 2 Corinthians 2:11, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, because we know that according to prophecy that these things must happen. All right. And as we're witnessing them play out, okay, we're just just funneling it through the scriptures, and hey, we're not bugging out. We understand that this is the way things must go, man.
That's right. And just to add to this point right here, I got this one as well, because we talked about the K-shaped economy right before we did the video, started the video. We talked about, well, I'm gonna read it. It says wealth inequality in America just hit its widest gap for more than 3 decades, Slovakia. But it says data from the Federal Reserve shows that the so-called K-shaped economy in America is alive and well, with low and middle income households falling further behind as the richest Americans pull away. The top 1% of households owned 31.7% of all U.S. wealth in the third quarter of 2025, the highest share on record since the Federal Reserve began tracking household wealth in 1989. That share has increased even as wealth growth for the rest of the population has stalled or slowed, the data shows. So, again, when you go back to this, right, the signs of a collapsing empire, we have the deep economic decay, debt, inflation. We see that, right? You had right down here widening wealth gaps, right? This is just like a checklist. You know what I'm saying? Like we see in these things. You
Con.
know, the
Right.
rich getting richer. The top trillionaires, billionaires, they're getting more billions and more billions and trillions in their pocket. While us common folk down here, man, we getting less and less.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I got a couple precepts for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Because like he was going into, all right, this debt, all right, because that word thick clay goes to the Hebrew word abajah. Was it
Mm-hmm.
abajah? I believe
These are badium.
abajam, and it goes into that debt. All right, and so America, because the majority of that debt, if I'm not mistaken, is owned by China, right?
Yeah, majority. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So a country can't prosper if it's mainly predicated in debt, man. All right. And America, this is why you see America going around trying to steal everything. All right, we saw that with Venezuela. They're trying to do that with Greenland. They're trying to do that with Iran because these devils, all right, will pretty much made a fake ass kingdom off of credit. All right, off of usury, because the only reason these devils even have all this money to themselves anyway is through that usury. Because Meyer Amschel Bauer, all right, he was taught, and he taught his 5 sons, all right, to pretty much create these banks and go and pretty much give out these loans to these different countries that they knew were never going to be able to pay them back. All right, so that's how they were able to subject everybody unto them. But then here in America, all right, America has been loaning out, well, not loaning out, they've been giving money out to Israel. All right, all these small hats that's in their different places or whatnot, but they don't I lost my point. Salaki, that shit just left my mind.
No, no,
I'll
you
read
good.
the scripture again.
Mm-hmm.
Habakkuk 2 and 6. Shall not these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Because the main thing, just getting to the point. All right,
Mm-hmm.
America got rich off of theft. Hey, you
Right.
built this place up off the back of the Israelites, the blood, sweat, and tears of the Israelites. All right, and all this wealth that was accumulated, all right, was stolen from the common people and is given to the elite. So, like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
that wealth gap is widening, and that was a good show of that in 2020, 2019,
Mm-hmm.
2020 during that the CVID. All right,
Mm-hmm.
because during the CVID, you had a lot of people lose their jobs. All right, and guess what? All these elites, all right, they were cashing out. You saw guys like Bezos, and there was another dude. I can't think of it off the top of the head, but it just coincidentally how they sold their businesses, and
Mm-hmm.
then they doubled and tripled in wealth, as the economy was in that standstill and free falling during the lockdown, man.
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows you that these devils are working unjustly against the common people, man, because a kingdom is made up of its servants, all right, and they're stealing everything from their servants, man. They're wearing the saints out. Like when you read back in the Isaiah 14, I believe it was. Can you pull that up? Verse I think it was verse 5 again. It was 5 or 6. The where it said the continuous stroke one.
Oh yeah.
I think it was verse 6.
Yep. Isaiah 14 and verse 6. Want me to read it?
Okay.
It says, "He who smote the people in wrath with a continuous stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and none hindereth."
Right, and that's what Esau has done. All right, because not only here in America, but against the whole world, he has put the people, he has ruled the people with a continual stroke, man. All right, he's pretty much working people to death, you know, and you have nothing to show for it. All right, hey, your Social Security is done. All right, your 401k is done. All right, Elon Musk pretty much said that it's pretty much impossible for somebody to retire at this point.
Man.
Because even retired people, they're having to go back to work, man. You know, so this shows you that this man is an unjust ruler, all right, because he's stealing all the wealth of the people unto himself. All right. Hey, farming is through. Bill Gates done bought up all the goddamn farmland. You got the farmers protesting, all right, against MAGA because they're seeing that Trump is fucking them with no Vaseline. You know, it's bad out here for the people. This is why, once again, showing you that, you know, Esau is in a bad place, because this debt that they've accumulated unto themselves, it has to be, you know, it has to be pretty much, you know, paid for. This is why, if he was going according to the law, all right, he will up here to laws such as, you know, the year of release, man. All right, every 7 years, that debt's supposed to be forgiven, but the people, all right, have been put in debt unto them because they never let it go, you know. But I got another one dealing with the economy. This is Zephaniah chapter 1 and verse 10. "And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills." And this is going into that the crash of the economy, which is about to happen very soon. All right. Because when you look at, you know, the economists, all right, guys like at Wall Street and that watch the stock market, all right. Now, to the common man, you can't see that they're manipulating the market, but to us that understand, you know, we ain't even gotta, you know extensive knowledge and all that, but we understand, you know, just the basic, you know, economic rules. All right. This is not real money that they're playing with, man. This is what they call Babylonian money magic, where they're just printing money out of thin air. All right. So with the creation of the Federal Reserve, all right, the money printing that they're doing, all right, was set to backfire from the jump. Because like I said earlier, fiat currency does not have a long shelf life. And when you go into the history of that, it always fails, and it always, you know, because currency changes. Okay. When you go into, you know, like the trading of like salt, you know, you got what they call it, bartering and different things like that. So now that we have paper money, which is now being moved out the way to where it started going from paper money to debit and credit cards, now they're going into central bank digital currency, CBDCs. So all these different things are just proof to you that next wave that is coming is the chip. So Esau was just, you know, moving things along, all right, till they finally it's going to get to a point to where, okay, they see that they're ready to crash this economy, which is what we're nearing, you know. So this is why we shouldn't be putting state in this country, because we know that this is a powder keg about to explode, man. That this, you know, this economy is done, man. You know, but just to put that out there. One more point you brought up, you know, dealing with the denarian. When you go to Rome, all right, what was a causing factor for Rome to fall? The devaluing of the money, all right, because they actually use real, you know, choice metals in their coins. And what started to happen was, you know, that denarian pretty much, you know, started to get, you know, mixed with, you know, bullshit ass, you know, material, to where the soldiers figured it out and they rebelled, And that's what's going to happen soon coming here in America, because you see all the videos of people crying, talking about how life is not affordable no more. Everybody, having their little car breakdown videos or whatnot. The people are going to start, lashing out. All right, these politicians and governors that's making all these money, motherfuckers like Nancy Pelosi, that they're showing is making money off of deceit. They're going to come after these people, man. That's what's going to cause an uprising, which is going to aid in martial law being declared. But you got it.
No, yeah, because I believe Nancy Pelosi was caught internal. What was it again?
I think it was inside trading.
Inside trading, yeah, inside trading. So, if these people are able to, do these things, and then whenever they get into like financial crisis, they get bailed out by the government, and the people are seeing all this, the corruption, and also the way just that this type of currency really just fucks over the people. Right now people don't see it, but once people really start feeling it, because even though people see it, people have been dumbed down to the point where they ain't gonna do nothing until it actually happens to them.
Yeah, until it hits home. Because when you understand money, you see that this ain't money. Like we literally we're working with monopoly money. This shit. Only reason that the dollar still has power is the belief in the dollar. So if these people really realize what we were dealing with, man, this shit would have been over with. But like you said, the people are dumbed down to where they don't. That you could tell them this, like Andrew Tate when he was at the height of his so-called fame or whatnot, he was going in and shit like this. He was telling you how the money wasn't real, but people that went over people's heads though, man.
That's right. Hey, and that leads to this, this next sign, the erosion of shared civic values,
Yep.
Which when you go into that, civic values just goes into pretty much a standard of morality, that people have, a lot of the same viewpoints that were shared 40, 50 years ago, it ain't shared no more. People's values have really decayed. A decadence, has really filled America. But one thing I wanted to say real quick, that video you sent me, I pulled it up. You want me to play it?
Yeah, you can play it.
It kind of goes into this. You want me to just start from the beginning?
Yeah, we can skip around. I forget exactly where the point was at, but as we listen, I'll remember.
All right, kind of. So I'll play this video. The title says, "Lesson from History: Transgender Mania is Sign of Cultural Collapse." So let me go ahead and play it.
There is something weird, despite that, about the transgender question, right? There is something going on that's beyond the sort of liberation of fluidity. Something else seems to have happened, where many young people in this country now, there's a percentage increase in the number registering for clinical interventions on transgender questions has increased enormously. There's a certain fashion in schools of some sort, and it's a nerve-wracking business. If you're going to get no platformed in this country at university, Germaine Greer, like, regardless of what one thinks of Germaine Greer, the point is you only have to
skip to like 2 minutes.
Get past Ian McEwan, who is completely right on liberal.
Meaning and very sympathetic, are there to provide surgical intervention and potential permanent changes in your body with which there's no going back. Okay? I mean, for me, a sex change operation opens one door but closes many others. Right? So I personally believe that anyone who who collaborates in an intrusion into a developing child's body and mind is guilty of child abuse, a crime against humanity. Okay, because that child is not prepared to make such a decision. Okay, I think that such decisions about sex reassignment surgery must wait when one attains a majority, which would be, it seems to me, a minimum of age 18. I'm very concerned with this because I think that it's become a fashion. Okay, that the transgender definition has become a kind of convenient label for young people who may
Like
simply
you
feel
jumped the
alienated, okay,
4 minute mark.
culturally,
That's when
for
you
many
start
other
talking about the
reasons.
history.
Okay, so that
Okay, come.
the masculinity is by definition toxic. Okay? Masculinity doesn't exist. You see, this is the proof of it. But now I began all my studies. My book Sexual Personae began as a dissertation at Yale graduate school on androgyny. I've always been fascinated, attracted, to the subject of androgyny, and that's what Sexual Personae is. I explored it in history, but the more I explored it, I realized that that historically, the movement toward androgyny occurs in late phases of culture, okay, as a civilization is starting to unravel, okay, and that you can find it again and again and again.
So as you said, as a society or what you say, whatever society starts to unravel, and that's what we're seeing. America is starting to unravel itself, man. It's things ain't look like it used to be. Whenever like I remember me growing up in the early 2000s. Things, I don't know, it just felt different. Now you see a lot of division everywhere. Like people can't stand each other. You see the love of many waxing cold. You see, just a lot of things that show you like people ain't the same. Like people are not the same like they used to be, man. Like
No,
the
their
morality, people as
minds.
well. Oh, Slocky, go ahead, bro.
No, I was gonna say their minds have been demoralized because when you look at like you said, when you look at the mindset of the people, they don't understand that the thoughts that they have been given to them. Like I say, it's a heavy spell that's being cast on people because when you look at we are younger, so brothers and elders that's been around can speak earlier than what we're about to say, but like just for what we can remember, late 90s, 2000s or 2010s up, and you didn't see shit like we see now, man. You didn't see moles, you didn't see transformers, you didn't see women just being whores like we see today, man. There was still shame in the earth, there was still sense. You didn't see atheists like that. Everything is completely bugged out now, and that's because we're at the end of this society to where demoralization, all right, is at an all-time high.
Yeah, people are losing their minds out here. Like I said, like just the way America is going. Like you can, like the scriptures say, as a ruler is so are the people. So if you see the people behave like this, imagine how the people at the top are behaving. Man. And it's all due to them going against Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, going against just being wicked as hell, man. This is the outcome. And America is what would you say? What would you call it? A cautionary tale, to future kingdoms, which there ain't gonna be no future kingdoms. We understand that Israel is gonna be the remain in power forever. But even Sodom and Gomorrah, was a cautionary tale, and we see America going in that same the same way.
Right.
So we're going to see the same outcome.
If I can add to you real quick, this is because what America is facing is what you can call moral apathy. And when you define what moral apathy is, it says it's an attitude of indifference toward the well-being of others or a lack of concern for moral issues, even when intervention or action is required. Often considered worse than hatred, it represents a profound not giving a damn that can lead to social decay and a perpetuation of injustice. And that's America in a nutshell, man.
Mhm.
Because like you said, people don't give a damn about righteousness anymore, man. No, you don't see, the Most High spoken of in a good way. Everything is blasphemy against the Lord. All right, total disregard for life, and this is a key aspect to show us that this kingdom is on its way out, man, because life can't go on from this, man. We always say there can't be another generation after this, man. All right, the children that's being brought into the earth, with these YNs and all this, they're not going to have a long lifespan if this place were to continue on. This is why we even see. I was speaking to Cornwall and Ashiar about this the other day. It was a video that came out where this dude was saying that 1/3 of Gen Z is already dead, and that was like the leading cause of that is abortion. All right, so you couple that with the fact that these Gen Zers of today don't even want to have children, shows you that there can't be life after this, man.
Right.
Including the thought pattern of how these people operate, man. Satanism leads to death. The rebellion against the Most High leads to death. Nothing that this country is producing, under the ruleship of the devil, is going to lead to a long sustaining society. This is why the Lord is allowing these things to happen, so that he can justifiably destroy this kingdom.
That's right. And we're seeing the same symptoms as you saw in the time of Noah, right? Let me get this real quick. Genesis 6. Because before the Most High destroyed the earth by water, he said this.
He's at the top.
Oh, yeah, right here. 6:13, it says, "And the Most High said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth." So when you go into this word for violence, because that's what you see right now too. You see a lot of violence. Pretty much everywhere the Western mindset is. You see a uptake in violence, crime. Crime rates going up. But it says violence, cruelty, wrong, false, cruel, unrighteous. But it says violence, wrong, cruelty, injustice, right? And that's how the inhabitants of Babylon behave, man. They behave in an injustice type of way, to where wickedness is upheld. Wickedness is ultimately the standard of how people should be living. We go to a nigger culture, we go into all these cultures that our people subscribe to, and what people uphold in the society is ultimately a bunch of wicked ass nonsense, man. It's always against the scriptures. And like you mentioned, people are becoming more blasphemous, to where speaking against the Bible is just a norm nowadays.
Yeah, and if I can add to that too, because we're living in what we call pre-flood times. Okay, if you can go up to verse 5, this just further gives us insight into what made the Most High do what he did back then.
So this is Genesis 6 and verse 5. It says, "And the Most High saw the wickedness of man, Salakia, and the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually."
And that's what's going on now. All right, like you made mention of, it's cruel, unjust, blasphemous actions being done on the earth, man. And this thing that we're seeing with the Epstein list being exposed, that's just a little bit. That's the tip of the iceberg of what's really going on behind the scenes, man. Because when you go into what the sons of God was doing back then, was led to the Lord doing that. All right, they were totally influenced by the sons of the wicked. So child sacrifice, Moism, transformerism, bestiality, all right, idolatry, all these things were being done, at a high scale then. And in today's time, it's even worse than the flood.
Mhm.
This is why the Lord is going to flood this place with fire. This can you read verse 6 too, Bible Shah, verse 6 and 7, or just no,
Con,
verse 6?
con. Verse 6, it says, "And they repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved them at his heart."
Right. So it got so bad on the earth that the Lord said he was going to destroy he was going to destroy the whole, not destroy the earth, but destroy man on the earth because
Mhm.
hey, everything was wicked. And
Right.
we're coming to that point again because as we see in verse 7, it says, "And the Lord said, I will destroy man who I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing and the fowls of the air, for they repented me that I have made them." And the reason why it got to that point because everything became defiled, like today.
Right.
Esau has defiled all of creation through the mixing of seed. All right, he's creating new creatures. He's popping the animals, so we're eating defiled meat. It's all type of wicked shit being done. So this is why Revelation 12:12 said, "Woe to them that dwell in the earth and the sea," because Esau has defiled everything. So it has to be a true cleansing.
Right.
Again, but this time, since the Lord said last time he wasn't going to flood the earth with water, this time it's going to be flooded with fire. Because both fire and water are cleansing agents.
Mm-hmm. One thing you mentioned, about the animals, right? You could tell that the animals, are fed up with the high rate of attacks that these animals
Oh
are
yeah.
doing against these Edomites, man. Like they understand who's in charge. They understand who's
Mm-hmm.
causing all this shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And even they understand that a cleansing is needed. That help is needed. Because like you mentioned, if this man is doing this to these animals, which are like innocent creatures, how much more do you think that we don't know that he's doing unto us?
Oh man. Yeah,
Right?
that's a good
Like,
point.
like we already know a lot of shit. We know about the food, the water, the air, the psychological breakdown of our people, the mental, pretty much the mental fuck that we went through as a
Yep.
nation. And who knows what else, man. There's a lot of shit, man, that we can go in. We can go on and on about the shit. The experiments,
Yep.
all kinds of shit. But the point being is that, here it is, this man's destroying everything. And this is the reason why we're seeing pretty much everything coming out, pretty much crying out for help. We're seeing the creation and the people crying out for help. The scriptures talk about when the righteous man is in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked
Mm-hmm.
bears rule, the people mourn. So that alone shows you who's in power, right? The wicked. And we understand that the wicked is going to have to be taken out of power because everything that we're reading are symptoms of a man who has not operated in a way of righteousness. He has not
Right.
taken on the laws of the Lord to where he can operate in balance and in righteousness.
Right. Because if I could quote the scripture, I believe it's in Proverbs, but it said, "A righteous man care for the life of his beast." And in a sense, we're using that for animals, but also you could use man in that sense too, because scriptures liken men to beasts as well. So this man is an unjust ruler because he doesn't care about life in general. Because like you say, the animals are fighting back against them. Shit, the earth is fighting back against them. Because one thing that people don't realize is that the Lord's Spirit is in everything. So I was hearing this and I was reading up on it. Like plants have defensive mechanisms too. That's like for example, like when you cutting an onion, that chemical that it gives off to make your eyes water, that's one of the onion's defense mechanisms. Or you have like certain plants, all right, to make animals not eat them. It'll make it taste bitter. Just giving examples of that. So, like for example, with the earth has certain areas that it you have a overgrowth of like poisonous plants. That's the earth fighting back against Esau. The different so-called natural disasters, is what you want to call them, but those are defense mechanisms against the earth. Because one point I heard Elder Ariala say that stuck with me. He said, the earth is gonna kill you before it lets you kill it. Because the Most High had said, Isaiah 42 and 22, that the earth abideth forever. I believe that was that verse. But yeah, the earth abideth forever. So Esau is not gonna be like no damn After Earth or no what's the other movie? Elysium, to where Wally and nothing like that, to where they're gonna get the earth so uninhabitable to where they're gonna have to flee. No, the Lord's gonna get your ass up out of here before that it gets to that point, man. Just get one precept just to show you the monster of these devils. Because when you read Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter, this gives you insight to the mind of the wicked. But this is Wisdom of Solomon 2 and verse 6. It says, "Come on, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are present, and let us speedily use the creatures like as in youth. Let us fill ourselves with costly wine and ointments, and let no flower of the spring pass us by. Let us crown ourselves with rosebuds before they be withered. Let none of us go out without his part of our voluptuousness. Let us leave the tokens of our joyfulness in every place, for this is our portion, and our lot is this." And that's Esau's mentality, man. They're just gonna use up everything till there's nothing left, and then think that they're just gonna be able to ride off into the sunset with no judgment. Well, no, that's not the case, man. It's a price for everything, man. And hey, you have a tab that you have racked up into yourself, what you're gonna have to pay, and the Lord's gonna serve your ass, man.
That's right. Hey, whenever Adam was in the garden, and he trespassed against the Lord, what happened? He said that thorns and thistles, will sprout out of these plants. That we ended up needing for herbs and different types of medicines. So, how much more Esau?
Yep.
Right. If the earth fought against us, or the Most High, made the creation do that, how much more Esau?
That's right.
That's what we're seeing. Him having to resort to GMO foods because the earth ain't working with him.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So let me see. Let me go to this real quick. Go back to this. So we done touched on a deep economic decay, widening wealth gaps, right? The erosion of civic values. So I got this one real quick. This is on the division. So let me read this real quick. This is it says Democrats and Republicans grapple with internal divisions on Israel. So just even on this topic alone, there's a lot of division amongst these Democrats and amongst these Republicans. You have the Republicans, the MAGAs, having an internal conflict because they don't want to support. A lot of them are, these white supremacists, that are almost like Nazis, in a sense, to where they hate, these ish people, but that support for them, and we see, that Donald Trump is a major puppet for them. We're seeing that division also within them. But, we don't got to read into this, but I just wanted to bring that out, that division is coming, but also with the whole ICE thing, with ICE on the ground, we're seeing a lot of division, where it can spiral into a whole goddamn civil war, right? And then you also have the whole, like we mentioned, the Epstein files, that's even going to bring even more division. So it's just the whole system is fractured to where we could see, just one black swan event to happen in order for all this shit to really just break loose, man.
And it's over.
And it's over. And we understand, how Esau works. So it's going to be like a domino effect. What you would call, I made a video on this just the other day, pretty much like a poly crisis, where one event is going to trigger something and everything around it is going to be tied with it, like the economy. Pretty much everything is one little thing can affect multiple sectors to where you're going to have a problem in all these sectors. And that's what we're seeing. They're planning the ultimate, what you'll call the perfect storm.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. As a matter of fact, we can get what's that? Egyptian against Egyptian.
Yeah, spirit. I was thinking that Isaiah
19.
19:2.
Con.
I got it for you. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19 and verse 2. It says, "And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom."
Hmm. And that's what we're about to see again. You know, we saw the first Civil War. Well, we didn't see it, but you know, it's recorded. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's gonna happen again. Well, we're gonna see, you know, that left right paradigm, you know, be executed to bring in, you know, disorder and chaos, you know, which is ultimately part of the plan, you know, to pretty much bring order through boots on the ground, you know, through these NATO uh, troops and you know all these different robots that they have planned, right?
Yep.
But again, this is all, you know, this whole psyops that's going on with, you know, divide and conquer. This is what they're pushing. You know, this is one of their enchantments,
Right.
right? The whole left right, you know, two horns, you know, as and they spake as a lamb. How's it go again?
Yeah,
Two
two
horns like a
horns.
lamb, but spake as a dragon.
Yeah, kind of really paraphrasing.
Gone. And we're about to see him speak as a dragon here soon. Once he
Yeah.
executes that plan, and we're about to start seeing him. We're speaking as a dragon right now, but once he really starts coming in with that them draconian measures and you know being more authoritative, you know, all that is coming. You know, that whole dystopian society, all that is on his way.
Yeah. Because one thing I said, people don't take it serious because it's just talk right now. You know, Trump
Right.
threatening the Insurrection Act. You know, we've been telling you that, you know, martial law is coming and all that. It's not going to really hit home for these people until that shit actually happens.
Right.
ICE is just the beginning of that. All right. And it's going to get to a point to where, you know, even these ICE agents are going to realize that, yo, I don't want to do this no more because then they're going to see, you know, the ones that's Americans, they're going to see that they're being made to fight against their own people and they're losing their country. So, you know, they're going to eventually, you know, have these foreign troops take over and, you know, finish what I started. And that's what's really going to bring that enforcement in to make it to where you people are really are going to be fighting against each other. Because
Mm-hmm.
right now, like I said, it's really, you know, predicated upon, you know, Trump and the MAGAs versus the left, if you want to call it
Mm-hmm.
that. But like you had that article on the screen, Israel is really is the dividing factor to
Mm-hmm.
where that's causing that division because people are waking up that hey, Trump is a pawn for Israel, man. All right, everything that he's doing is not benefiting America; it's benefiting Israel. So that's what's going to cause the people to start standing up and fighting back. And like I said, even ICE is going to realize that at some point because the ones that was doing it for the, you know, the what they thought was the good of their country, all right, they're going to realize that was a sham. All right, and that's why I said that's
Mm-hmm.
what's going to cause the foreign troops to take over because when they start calling on, you know, them to start mowing down their fellow Americans, they're not going to be wanting to do that shit. So that's why they already got the UN troops and the Gerber troops in play. They're just waiting to be activated before they start doing this, man. So everything is just like I said. I called it a powder keg earlier, man. It's just it's
Mm-hmm.
waiting to explode, man.
Mm-hmm. This is like you mentioned, a powder keg. You know, that's like the smallest spark can blow this whole shit up.
Yeah,
All it takes is just like you mentioned, like we mentioned, though, all it takes is one psyop, you know, one black swan event, you know, just one thing just done at the perfect moment, and this shit is over.
it's done, bro.
But I got this. Just put it up on the screen. You know, it says a civil war brewing in Minnesota over immigration. You know, so you know the talks of that, you know, is out there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
civil war. You know that all that notion. You know, they had a movie called Civil War a couple 2 years ago, I think. or
Yeah,
last year
sure.
that came out. You see, so like they always use television. You know, they always use these movies to forecast what they're about to do. You know.
Yeah, Hollywood was a tool from the elite to talk, to communicate with one another.
Mm.
So, like you said, these movies are nothing more than them foretelling you what they're about to do. You know, so because you have that term, the revelation of the method, to where
Mhm.
they have to tell you in their doctrine, they got to tell you what they're doing. So whenever they do it, they can be like, well, we told you what we were doing. You know, so
Right.
that's prophecy. They're trying to be like the prophets on the left hand, because the Most High tells you what he's doing, you know, on the right side through the prophet. So it's only right through the left hand to do the same thing. So, hey, the people that's out here that can't see it, hey, that's their fault. They're willfully ignorant to their own detriment, you know.
Hmm.
But if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you can pick up on what's going down, man.
That's right. I got this just to add to this point. This is Second Ezra's 15 and verse 14. It says, "Woe unto the world, and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." Right. So that whole ice thing can also trigger a whole race war.
Yeah,
You know, and we've been seeing, Judah and Ephraim, both northern and southern kingdom, kind of getting together on this.
mm-hmm.
So well, the tension is building up. That's all I'm gonna say. But verse 16, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power." And I'm surprised with this whole release of the Epstein files that ain't nobody doing nothing.
They're not, because at the end of the day, they're doing not as sick as that, but they're operating under that same vibration. So of course not. They suffer from what you call selective outrage. They pick and choose what they want to cry out about, but in the end, they don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they truly cared, then they would stop supporting these celebrities that's on that list. Hollywood would be shut down completely. There would be no need for no new TV shows, no movies, no video game. Society would stop if these people truly cared about what was being done. But they're not.
Mm-hmm. They don't care. They can care less. It all goes back to what we said.
More
Yeah, exactly. But let me see. So it says verse 17, because this is what's ultimately what they're trying to usher in, right? Martial law, right? But it says, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid." So this is ultimately why this is coming. The pride of the people, the pride of the leaders, right? So all hell is about to come to where people are going to be locked up in their houses. You ain't going to be able to go out, or you're going to be rounded up and taken to a concentration camp, and that's going to be your homestead now.
Yep.
You see? But all this, that we're seeing, all this, manipulation of the masses, it's all leading to this. Every action, best believe, is calculated. They talk about, I can't remember who said it, but they were like, pretty much make use of every crisis, or
don't let a good crisis go to waste.
Right. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. So to them, Esau's an opportunist. He's a serpent. That's the reason why the scriptures call him a serpent. Because this man just, like, every characteristic you can think of a serpent, this man has it.
Yep.
A serpent, what does it do? It coils up. It camouflages itself and waits for the right moment to strike. And that's what you see Esau doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we see him, coiled up right now, man. He's savoring. He's licking his lips. He's waiting for the right moment to strike.
Yeah, because this has been they were been supposed to establish a new order. They're way behind schedule. This was supposed to be done like in the early 2000s, but the Spirit of the Lord didn't allow that to happen because prophecy had to play out. So just showing you that we're on the Lord's time, not theirs. You know,
That's right. That's right. And that's why, again, just going, this all goes back to us seeing the signs, right? We're seeing the signs of this end, because this is the time this man is going. This is the last time this man is going to rule.
that's right.
This is the last time this man is going to rule. So we're seeing the signs of his downfall, right? And like I said, and just touching on this, you know, the scriptures talk about his downfall, but even his own, you know, AI, his own creation is telling him the signs that we're seeing in his society.
Mm-hmm.
But let me see. I'm almost done with this. I only have a couple more.
Con.
But it says the military overextension. Right. We got that. Let me see. Where's that article? Right here. So like I said, we don't gotta go into the article, but mainly it's this, right? It says Donald Trump, the Donald Trump doctrine is a recipe for US overstretch.
Mm-hmm.
So it says the White House's focus on the Western Hemisphere could strain US military assets rather than focus them, right? Because you already have you know, like I said, the tension in over there in Iran, you know, where, you know, it's uncertain. I remember I was going to look up, you know, how the meeting ended up with Trump and I believe the Ayatollah of Iran.
Mm-hmm.
But they were saying they're going to have talks over the nuclear deal, or renew the nuclear contract. But I didn't get to look into that. But there's tensions on that. You know what I'm saying? So if nothing follows through, that means Iran is able to, you know, there'll be no deal, there'll be no contract set up. So Iran will be able to go and create weapons, which we already know they're already, you know, making some. They're refining all this uranium. So, you know, best believe they have some. But it's just the point that this tension is building up over the fact that these people or Israel doesn't want them to have, you know, nuclear weapons of mass destruction.
Yep.
But you have that, you know, with Iran. You have the whole thing with
Greenland.
with China. What was it?
So yeah, the situation with Greenland.
Oh yeah, with Greenland. Yeah, with NATO. You know, with its own allies, having problems with its own allies, right? You also have, like I said, the whole thing with China with what was that place? Not the Philippines. Taiwan, right? The whole thing with Taiwan, which, like I said, nothing has happened of that yet, but the tension is still there.
Yep.
You know, tension with Russia. You know, that's the reason why Donald Trump is trying to build that Golden Dome, you know, in order to protect themselves from, you know, threats from outside. But then, like I said, they're overstretching themselves, going to South America. You know, they were in West Africa just a couple of weeks ago. They bombed, was it Nigeria or something?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of shit, man. And then also the military of Esau, you know, is stretched. They have 600 plus bases all around the world. I mean, it's just like we mentioned, just to a point where they're really overstretching themselves, you know, mainly financially, because to upkeep that type of military force, you know, active, you know, it takes a lot of money. Yeah. Which is why I believe the United States has them. I think, I can't remember exactly. Let me look it up. I want to look at the budget of the U.S. military.
Shit, it's a lot, because shit, we just saw them pour in, what was it, $1 billion into ICE?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had ICE, you had the funding for the Space Force a couple years ago. That's a thing now. So everything that they've been doing is all for the expansion of Esau's military.
Mm-hmm. So it says right here, right? I got it. It says in early 2026, the U.S. military budget is experiencing intense debate, with proposals aiming for a massive increase of approximately $1.5 trillion for 2027. to address modernization, readiness, and a new Golden Dome project. This follows the fiscal year 2025 approved level of 833 billion, which was a slight increase over the 824.3 billion in 2024. So god damn, they're raising up pretty much double, 1.5 trillion for
Showing you where their
2027. That's
mind
what they're
at.
saying.
That's showing you where their mind at. Because what was the joint before they turned it to Department of War? Was it Department of Justice or Department
Department of Defense.
of Defense? Yeah, now it's turned to the Department of War, because that shows you where their mind's at, man. Hey, the violent man about to take off, man. You know, he about to wage war not only against the earth but against the Lord. You know, so this shows you, hey, he's doing what the prophecy said was going to happen, and that's what we're seeing everybody else doing too. With that Joel 3,
Right.
Let the weak say I'm strong. You know, they're turning, you know, agriculture based countries, they're investing all their money into military too, because they're about to all, you know, use those weapons to destroy Babylon through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Al Shah.
That's right. You know, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna pull it up for you. This is Joel 3 and verse 9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles: prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong."
And that's what's going on. All right. Esau, you see Trump keep talking about that Golden Dome because they know that eventually these nations are going to shoot missiles over here, man. You know, so all the nefarious, you know, backdoor and the, you know, isolating that they're doing it. They know the end result is going to be America's destruction. So they're trying to prevent that by, you know, trying to go on the offense and try to, you know, build some type of defense, but that's going to be, you know, all in vain. Once them ICBM nuclear missiles is shot, that's curtains for America, man. There's no coming back from that. And your Golden Dome ain't gonna save you, because the Lord Spirit's gonna be in them missiles, man. All right. So when the warheads touch American soil, man, that's it. There's not gonna be no rebuilding this place up.
That's right. I want to get that's pretty much all I had. I just want to get one more precept.
Kind.
Let me see. How's it go? Oh, damn, I kind of lost it.
You know how it's worded? Or anything in it?
I was just trying to formulate it. It escaped me.
It'd be like that.
Oh yeah. I got it. This is oh wait, it ain't. So where's it at? Okay, right here. Isaiah 47. I'll just get to the point. Verse 11. It says, "Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know." So just, you know, tying this up, you know, like we mentioned Psalms 2 and verse 1, right? How, you know, it is a vain thing, you know, to do, everything that Esau is doing is all vain, right?
Right.
This is why, like it says right here, you know, evil shall come upon thee, which you won't know whence it riseth, mischief, you won't be able to put it off, desolation come upon thee suddenly. You know, all these things is all coming to him, and what he doesn't understand is that spiritual demon Satan is playing him, you know, playing him into destruction. Whatever message he's getting, you know, he really believes that he has a chance into accomplishing his enterprise. But at the end of the day, we understand that this man is actually fearful. You know, he's scared, you know, of the outcome of what is going to happen. But he's really worried about of what might happen. You know, what might happen if he wins, right? So he's in the stance of what if, right? But we're in the stance of what is. And what is going to happen is this is going to happen. Desolation, destruction, right? So all his enchantments, all his devices, all his plans is gonna come to naught at the end of the day. You know, nothing he does is gonna be able to deliver him. You know, how can he fight against the king of terrors? I mean, the title alone is like, yo, who you think you are to combat such a power, man?
Hey, the pride of his heart has deceived him.
Right. And that pride is crazy. You know, this is on a crazy level right now. That's what you see. You know, him and his witches over there speaking. You know, flagrantly, man, just saying all kinds of shit. But that's what we are at now, man. You know,
Right.
the scriptures say pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Right. So that pride is going to have to be uplifted in him right before his fall.
Mm-hmm.
But you have anything else, Sock?
Lie.
Kind. So that's pretty much it. You know, I pray the lesson was edifying. You know, we're gonna go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Bahashem, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, we're going to say Shalom.
Shalom.
Yasharallah.
Kwam Yasharallah.